Good morning. This is Jim Hennager. I'm trying to show you some of my front porch here. It's an all-season porch that we added on to our home here, and it has a plastic roof so we can grow plants here all year round. As you can see, we have over 50 of these hanging plants, and it's a very nice area here. There's over 50 plants on the floor. So I call this my oxygen room. A lot of oxygen and a lot of windows so we can see outside. If you can see this, this is the lake right outside. It's now January 2016. We've gotten some snow. Not anywhere like the snow that they got out in the East Coast yesterday. I don't know how you deal with 2 to 3 feet of snow. That would be a difficult one, but I guess you have to take what we get. So I'm here with my dog. I call her Goofy, but she's a pretty good dog. Been here for maybe 10 years or so. This is another course, an interesting title, Living Life at 1,000 miles an hour. Catchy title. I hope people will get curious and view this video. It's in a series of videos that a group of us are putting together in what is called the reentry program. Particularly, we're trying to be of some help to people that are in a transition in life, and that could be any number of situations. Coming out of a divorce, coming out of the military, coming out of prison, maybe a health issue, maybe an accident, but something is happening in your life that's challenging you, and you need to kind of get on a track somehow. So we don't have all of the answers. We don't pretend to. What we're trying to do is stimulate you to give some thought to your situation and maybe offer you some ideas that might be beneficial to you. So in the past I've done videos on personal problem solving and setting goals. Today I'd like to take it in a new direction and kind of open you up to looking at the world maybe a little bit different. I've been in education for many years. My first class in sociology was in 1969, so gives you an idea. I've been around a while, and I've seen a lot of changes in the last 50 years, and so I'm hoping to be able to share some of those changes with you, and also perspective. I think the planet is developing in some new ways of consciousness of what it means to be humans here on Earth, and I hope that some of what I get into today might help you see, that the world is a pretty large place and it's moving very fast, and that's what I'm hoping to leave you with today, is that the world is getting bigger and the world is moving faster, and your own personal time could be moving very fast as well, but there's some things that would help you, I believe, to appreciate, what's happening around you. Now, this video course can be taken as a 1 CEU, and to accomplish that, I'm going to give you some recommendations for 3 short papers and a summary. So you could probably finish this for 1 CEU in 3 or 4 hours, and that's kind of what you'd get if you went to a seminar someplace and was awarded a CEU. And this would be in life coaching or personal growth kind of area. If you wanted to take it for one college equivalent, which we call international learning units, you're very welcome to do that as well. And if you want to go to that level, then you need to probably expand those papers. Instead of 1 page, they each need to be 3 or 4 pages long. And I'm going to encourage you to go outside of this video and go to the internet or go to YouTube videos and bring in at least 10 references from the outside. And that's not going to be hard to do. I think you could, easily find all kinds of outside references in personal growth and personal planning. And I just need you to expand your effort and go deeper into some of these papers, okay? And you can send it all to me at the end. There's an email address to send the work to me, and I'll get back to you. If you are hoping to pass it as a CEU, I'm hoping that the paper is 3 or 4 pages long and shows me that you've listened to the video and you've taken this seriously. If you want to pass on the International Learning Unit, I'll be expecting, maybe 10 pages and 10 outside references. You can also do this as an exceptional pass, which would require you to get into it even deeper, probably 20 pages, maybe even more than that, and more than 10 references. And particularly in the conclusion part, I would like you to get into some depth. But I'm glad that you're taking this video and are interested in it as a course. I'm hoping it adds something to your life so that it benefits you, okay? So that's kind of the background. I've been a professor, as I've said, for many years. I've taught sociology, I've taught management, and I've been a college administrator at a couple different institutions over the years, and with the state agency, education agency. And I've had some, just everyday jobs. I've worked in a couple factories. I've worked out in the field in bean fields on a research company, and you have to do what you have to do to survive sometimes. So I'm sure you'll appreciate it. I'm not coming at this as a pure academician. I kind of feel like my tapes, my videos are boring enough as they are, and maybe someday boring videos will come into popularity, and who knows, okay? So you're going to get out of this whatever you take out of it, whatever it benefits you. You'll find that I'm not going to tell you how to conclude it. I don't believe in right or wrong answers to anything, and particularly in this area of life courses. It's your life, and you have to put it together in a way that's comfortable to you. So I hope we have that kind of understanding. Now let me go back to the title of this, Living Life at 1,000 miles an hour. You may not realize it, but we are actually traveling 1,000 miles an hour. The Earth is 24,000 miles around, and we revolve once every 24 hours. That means we're traveling 1,000 miles an hour. We don't feel it because of gravity and because of atmosphere and because we're pretty much attached to the surface. But, heaven forbid that the Earth would stop spinning. We'd be flying pretty fast. But what I would like this to be is a symbolic reference to life itself. If you're going through a transition and you're at the bottom of that transition, if you're finding that you're depressed, that you have more problems than you can deal with, life kind of stops turning, and every day can seem like a long time. So there's times in life where it does appear to us that we feel like time has slowed down, and I've had some of those experiences myself, so I can support that people go through ups and downs, but it's more important that you go through the down and you make it back up to the top and feel good about yourself. Okay, so there's times when we're slowing down, but there's also times when time can just pick up and go very quickly. I can look back at the last 50 years and it just seems like soon it passed me by and very quickly. So I need you to be aware that time is relative, and you need to appreciate every minute, every hour, every second as you're going through it. And we tend not to. I mean, we get caught up in the day-to-day activity. We get caught up in trying to solve little problems every day. And it's very easy to just skate right on through without really appreciating the things around us. The first area I'd like to kind of get into is that I think the human perspective, and I'm talking about all of humanity, is broadening out. If you went back 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, the amount of information out there is just expanding very, very rapidly. Possibly 500 or 600 years ago, there were very few libraries, very few universities, and it's very possible that one person that was trained to read in several languages could have probably read about, not everything, because some of them are difficult to get to, but you could have read most of the literature that was out there 500 years ago. Now today, that's impossible. I mean, every year we're seeing 1 million new journal articles, not including books and magazines and newspapers. So it's very difficult for anybody to become a specialist in one topic, and to know everything in a field is very difficult. So don't give yourself a bad time if there's things you run into that are always new, because that's what's happening. We have what I see as a body of mainstream information where people that have the ability to publish newspapers and magazines and produce TV shows and news, and textbooks. That's an area in academia. But they develop what they would like to have you think of as mainstream, acceptable kind of knowledge. But actually, that mainstream always has a front end to it of new ideas, out-of-the-box ideas that are sometimes very controversial. And what I've found in 50 years is those things that were mainstream 20 years ago have now been almost forgotten. They've been put in a lost and found box on the back side. And those ideas that were out in front, the out-of-the-box controversial ideas, not all of them, but many of them, that we've moved into accepting them. And that's going on all the time. So with my students, I think you need to know what's in the mainstream, but I think it's also important to realize that there's new ideas, new information, new technologies out in front of you, and you'd probably be wise to have at least one foot in what's coming as well as one foot into the day, if that makes any sense to you. Part of my academic research and my dissertation was looking at information over 20 years and seeing how it's developed. The advantage of reading literature that's 20 years, 40 years, 100 years old is we can see if it's been predictive. And my results showed that particularly I read 100 years of a major newspaper, and less than 15% of their editorials, their stories predicting something over the next 20 years actually came true. They were off most of the time because of hindsight. And when I looked at nonfiction books, people that were economic planners or city planners or just in the planning area, you would think they would have a handle on the future. But as it turned out, they were only about 18% accurate in predicting 20 years. The interesting thing is my committee asked me, actually they forced me to get into some of the better-known science fiction writers like Asimov and Bradbury and Clarke and Heinlein. In the 70s, these people were selling the most science fiction short stories and books, and they were well acclaimed. Now it turns out that all four of those are professors, and I believe all of them have PhDs in a nonfiction area. Many of them were astrophysics, physicists, they were sociologists, they were professors. So they had one foot in the future, and that's where they created their science fiction ideas, which typically were exaggerations of things happening today. And they also had one foot in the present, and they would extend that out into the future, but exaggerate it, okay? And I was very surprised that, I analyzed quite a number of their works, and I did a literary analysis, and it turns out that about 75% of all their ideas were actually coming true in 20 years. And, it told me that the science fiction writers, the people in the fiction world, were actually more accurate about the future than the hard science people, or, the people that were in real day kind of literature. And that was kind of shocking to me, but it was very evident. And it could be because they don't have to, be rigorous about their references or where they're getting their ideas. They basically can make them up, but they usually use some kind of trend from today going forward. So if we're having water problems today, then there's severe water problems in the future. If we have marriage problems today, there's more severe problems in the future. And they were picking up on themes that we could see were developing, such as the intelligence of computers. If you exaggerate that into the future, we have computers running the show. So you see how they were able to project, and they were projecting to entertain. I mean, they wanted to sell their books, their magazines, so they wanted people to like what they were writing about. So I think that's kind of interesting, that if you look into the future, 20 years from now, so that would be 2036, I'd be willing to bet that everything will be different. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, the houses we live in, the transportation, the energy systems, everything, okay? And if you just look back 20 years, you can see that things have changed dramatically. I mean, 20 years ago, I didn't have a computer, a personal computer. I couldn't get on the internet. I didn't have emails. There wasn't a smartphone. I don't think I even had a portable phone 20 years ago. So look at all the technology that's changed in the last 20 years. And if you've been someplace like in prison for 20 years, you probably come out to quite a strange new world. And I can understand that. So if you take things in 20-year time periods, you have to appreciate that things are changing quite radically in technology, but also in the scope of knowledge. We have more people going to college today than we've ever had, all over the world. And they're encountering new ideas and dealing with them in their own way. So you could argue that the knowledge base, not the mainstream knowledge, but the knowledge base is quite a bit larger than just the textbook would have us believe anymore. In fact, it would look to me like textbooks are outdated before they're even published, because things change so fast. Today's computers are outdated in 18 months, and the smartphones are trading them in every year. So things are changing pretty fast, and I think some people are adapting to that change easier than others. And what we're finding is that older people are having more difficulty in adapting to these changes than, say, the younger generation. And that's probably to be expected. I know that I have a 9-year-old son, and he's at his computer playing games, and right next to him is an iPad, and it's playing videos, and he has a TV going in the background, and somehow he's knows what's going on in all three at the same time. In my situation, I've used computers now for some years, and I appreciate what they can do for you. And I've even been involved in a team to design a learning computer. So from that side of it, I appreciate what a computer can do. But, I kind of take pride in that I don't text, Twitter, or tweet. I'm not on social media very much. I do email a lot of people, and I don't recall right now, maybe in 5 years, have I ever sent a regular mail. Puts a stamp on something and mailed it. So I don't know how the post office stays in business, to be honest. But I'm not as proficient. I think hand and eye coordination isn't as good at my age, and so I can see the difference between young and old. Now, if you went back 10 years ago, research showed that 18-year-olds coming through the 90s and first 2000s had actually spent 18,000 hours watching TV. But I think TV watching is going down, and computer watching, smartphone watching, iPad watching is on the increase. So it's very possible that my son, when he reaches 18, will have watched 18 or 20,000 hours on computer. I hope that's not going to hurt his eyes or there's something dangerous in the electromagnetic sense. But it's a new world, and I think things are coming at us faster and faster. I can remember when the first online opportunities developed in the 90s, and it might take 10 minutes to get hooked up to the internet on a telephone connection. And now today, if I have to wait 3 or 4 seconds for the connection, I think something's wrong, or I blame the Wi-Fi. So you see, our expectation is changing too, and I see that with my students. Not that they expect my classes to be just entertaining, but they'd like the pace to be enough to keep them awake, I suppose you could say. So not only has society sped up, and that we're traveling farther, we're meeting more people, we're engaging in more situations that require critical thinking and communication skills. We're dealing with people on different levels, and by 1980, more than half the people coming out of high schools were not going into manufacturing jobs. I think by 83, over half of the people in the United States were going into service-oriented jobs. So have our schools changed? Somewhat, but in the United States, I see that our standard of education has gone down. The learning may not be keeping pace with the real-world situation. By the 90s, 95 into the 2000s, what we saw are more and more people actually working from home. And now they're projecting that most of the young people coming out of college, they're going to work partly from home, at least half of them, and many of them will work from home completely. So you see, it takes a different kind of emphasis on education and learning between, somebody's just going to push buttons in a factory and do that for 20 or 30 years and hope to get a gold-plated watch when they retire. That's just not happening anymore. What you need are people that can think for themselves, communicate with a lot of different people, have a very open mind to not judging other people until you have more information. You need to be able to research and investigate from a number of different sides. In my classes, I say it's like, issues come at you from 2 different directions, and they both can't be right. I mean, one says blue and the other one says red. That's an indication that you got to go investigate. You got to get outside of what you're used to as far as where you find information, and get as much new information as you can. And to do that, you have to be open to it. Now, I've had students that have read a lot in, say, one topic, and I sort of view that as being on a merry-go-round. And you could ask, how far has somebody traveled if they've been on the same merry-go-round all day? Well, you can say, that they have traveled far, but have they? You have to get off the merry-go-round. You have to go find a lot of different kinds of information to deal with the issues that are coming at us today, because they're not simple. Very complex issues, and it requires you to gather information, kind of like what I call a Rubik's Cube, looking at it from all the different sides so you can understand it. You don't have to agree with every side. You just have to kind of understand where other people are coming from to have a good feeling about where you're at. Does that make sense? You have to look at it from a lot of different sides. You have to get off the merry-go-round. You got to investigate things, talk to different people, be willing to be open to the fact that you might change your mind, okay? And a lot of people today are not. I mean, they're just set in concrete, it's my way or the highway. And I see that in politics, and that's why I've been so concerned about what's happening in politics, that, we really do have gridlock in making political decisions, and the decisions that are being made are being influenced by the people that can give the most money. That sounds like a system that's bound to fail, and I'm concerned about that. But that's also true in everyday life. There's just so much information that comes from us, comes at us, that some people just collapse and don't want to deal with it. They don't want to watch TV. They don't want to read a newspaper. I seldom find a student anymore that is reading a newspaper. And they're getting all their information off of the TV, but mostly now from computers. And if you're looking at the news presented by the mainstream internet news people, you're going to be very biased, because they're biased, okay? They have their biases. So it's hard to know where to get information that's independent, that's truthful. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that you just cannot believe. They make it up. You gotta understand that. And it's very difficult when you're dealing with somebody long distance by emails, and you don't get to watch them as they're talking. You don't get to see how they react to things. It's very hard to know somebody by the internet. I think you can appreciate them, but to really get to know them, I hope that we still have to have face-to-face communications. So a lot of things are changing, and a lot of friendships are, based on internet. A lot of marriages. I see one of the dating sites saying 1 out of 4 marriages now is connecting on the internet. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that it's new, and you have to appreciate that it requires you to look at the situation different, okay? And I think, what's happening on the internet and even on TV, things are moving faster. If you go back to the 70s with a very popular program called Cheers, a setting where they were around a bar, the laugh line that was written into that show had a laugh about every 60 seconds. But then the Seinfeld show that kind of followed that, in the 90s, the laugh line came down to about every 30 or 40 seconds. And now today, some of the new comedies, you actually have more than one person talking at a time. And I've wondered about that, Are we able to appreciate that there could be 2 laugh lines, 2 narratives going at the same time? And apparently we are. You see it in the morning news shows, the kind of talk shows that are on every morning. You often have 2 or 3 of them talking at the same time. And, I think that's kind of bewildering to some people, but other people, they can follow it. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 20 years when that TV can talk to you, or that computer, when it's already there? I mean, you can ask your smartphone questions and it answers, and the computer can answer just about anything. So in the future, you could have a daytime soap on a screen that's as big as your wall, and you're one of the characters. Can you appreciate that? So you get played into the discussion that's going on. They'll wait till you say something and then react to it, and the ending or the course of the narrative can actually change by what you input into it. I think it would be very dramatic to experience that kind of two-way, three-way kind of communications. And I can see people being trapped, basically watching TV in those kind of settings. So things are changing. I think education is changing. I'm expecting to see within 10 years a lot more computer learning, not just using it as a textbook like they're doing now, but very interactive. I think that computer will talk to the student, and the student will talk to the computer, and it'll give them options and self-test, and it could be a very powerful learning tool and allow individual learning. So each student could be going at their own rate rather than everybody on the same page on Wednesday and everybody else on the same page on Thursday, which we have now. Our education has really been designed around a factory model, and even the grading A, B, C, D, F. F is sort of like being fired, and like I said, we're not in a manufacturing mode anymore. We need different kinds of skills, and I think that's going to be important in the future. So another thing that I see happening in education is I think we're going to have three-dimensional kind of opportunities. I think you could be sitting in a learning egg, sort of like this, but it comes right up over the top of you. You have your computer here, and you say, oh, well, I want to learn about what life was like in 12th century England. And up pops, 12th century village right in front of you, and a person walks up in native clothes and talks to you and takes you into their home, and you see how they cook and what kind of challenges they had in that day. You might see a knight ride up on his horse and get off of it and show you his armor, and maybe he's going to shoot an arrow and it lands in the 15th century at a different place in the world. So then you can interact between what's changed from the 12th century to the 15th century. I think it's going to be very dynamic, and I think it's necessary. I think we need to move in those directions. I had an opportunity in the middle 90s to experience three-dimensional kind of experience where you put the helmet on and you have the gloves, and the 3D puts you right into that experience. And at first we were in an airplane going down through mountain ranges, and it was very intense. And then we were in a castle fighting dragons. That was very intense. And I was supposed to be out in front of this store. We were campaigning, getting signatures for Ross Perot, and this was in San Diego. And I'd been at this electronics store for maybe 2 weeks. And finally somebody came to relieve me, and I walked in, and this display was right in the middle of this huge electronics store. And for $5 I was supposed to get 5 minutes experience on this real life kind of experience. So I am flailing away with my sword and fighting off dragons, and I hear on the loudspeaker, "Jim, you're needed out in front. Jim, you're needed out in front." So I took off the headset, and here was maybe 20 people, and they were all clapping, watching me. I was their entertainment, apparently. I was drawing attention to the display, but they had left me on it for 20 minutes or longer, and my brain was fried. It was sort of like that. And it took hours for my brain to slow back down to be able to put real thoughts together. And it wasn't that I was, not able to walk or anything. It was just my brain was like I'd eaten 20 teaspoons of sugar. It was just adrenaline going, okay? So I think we got to be careful. I think we could go way too fast, and in learning, and people, brains would be affected. I can see that. We have to be very careful. But I think in the future we're going to have master teachers who know about how computers and electronic learning can be meshed into everyday kind of experiences. And I'm hoping that you have the computer learning, but you also have more social interaction with peer learning and working with other students of varying ages, as well as different adults. I can see that individuals learn at different speeds. They have different things that are important to their learning. Some learn by touching things and having a hands-on approach. Others like to watch things like videos. That's why I moved to having these videos, because I didn't see a lot of students reading anymore. Some people do like to read, and they read a lot. But they could also have sort of a need to feel something about it. So there's a lot of different learners, but that's also true in life. It's not just book learning or academic learning. It's how you experience everyday life. So if you're a person that has to have a hands-on feeling about everything, that's important, and maybe that gives you a clue to the kind of jobs that you would like to have, the kind of career you would like to go into. If you're the kind of person that's, likes to read, you like to work with numbers, you like to have things, organized so that they are, like this kind of environment, maybe accounting or finance or, working with libraries and reading a lot, those are some fields in that area. What I'm suggesting is that you should figure out what your learning style is so that your career style complements it. Okay? If you're a person that needs to have a hands-on feeling, maybe those careers where you're working with people one-on-one and like a chiropractor, that's a very hands-on kind of occupation, but also carpentry. That's a hands-on, and at the end of the day you can actually see what your hands have done. So I definitely encourage you to have those complement each other. And many people don't even realize that they have a need for a certain kind of style of learning or appreciating their environment. You hear people say you have to take time to smell the roses, and I agree with that. Sometimes our life is going so fast that we don't appreciate little things at all, and those little things might be flowers around us, but they could be our kids, and they could be our spouse or our mate. And if you're that busy, you're too busy, you need to slow down and throw the anchor out and appreciate little things around you. I think it's just a matter of priorities and being aware of that. So in some cases I'm suggesting that the world is going too fast around us and we need to deliberately slow it down so that we take in those kinds of experiences and events and people that are important to us. Okay? It's very possible that 10 or 20 years can go by and your kids have grown and they're gone and they're doing their own thing, and you might see them 2 or 3 times a year, if that, and they could live within 20 miles. And I know that happens all the time. And that's kind of tragic in a way. I think it's too bad that our time goes so fast that we can't continue to have things that are very valuable to us stay a part of those experiences. Okay? So there's another perspective to this that I'd like you to be aware of, which you may or may not, but not only is the world going faster, but it's just broadened out in scope, and not just in the number of books or the numbers of links that you can get on the internet. When I took astronomy in 1966, my freshman year, I took astronomy just as a fun class, and I don't remember a lot from the class or the professor, but I do remember the opening paragraph, and in it said, it's estimated, this would have been 1966, it's estimated that there's 1.5 million stars in the universe, okay? Well, I don't know if you're following this, but in the last 20 years, that number has bounced up to 30 billion stars in our galaxy, and in the last 10 years, it's bounced up to 100 billion in our galaxy, with maybe 100 billion galaxies out there. You know, talk about opening up the universe. It's just expanded to a point where it's awful hard to wrap your head around what that means. I mean, in our galaxy, there's the potential to be millions and millions of planets just like Earth. There's millions and millions of opportunities, for different civilizations, for different ways of doing life, and they may not all look like us. So here we are having problems, between people because of the color of their skin, which is absolutely ridiculous. And you see it every day. I mean, we're opposed to Syrians coming into, Europe and the United States. That's a racist kind of approach to things. They talk about it being a concern for terrorism, but it's really racist. And in the United States, we have this big problem with people coming from Mexico and below coming into the United States. And I agree that we have to protect our borders, and we just can't take billions of people here. But the people that come find jobs, and they're contributing to our economy. And I had this idea that you can send them all home. That's ridiculous. We need them. We need new people. I think our economy is stalled out in large part because we're not open to new people coming, and we're not allowing enough people to come in my opinion, to grow the economy anymore. So we have a lot of these prejudices that go back, thousands of years. So we need to open it up, and I think realizing that there could be millions of civilizations out there, and they may not look like us at all. If we can't get along with somebody else because their colors is a little different, how are we going to get along with people out in the universe that might have two tails or four eyes or one eye? Who knows, right? I think we've been given some tests, and we're not passing any of them. It would seem to me that we should be able to take care of everybody on Earth, and it would appear that we don't care about everybody. Hundreds of millions of people are going to bed hungry, and maybe 40 million children under 5 are dying every year from malnutrition and disease. And we have good people working on it, but it doesn't seem to be a priority. I think we should have enough food for everybody. I think we should have enough clean water. And look at the concerns we're having right now here in Flint, Michigan, with the lead in the water. And that went a couple of years without anybody, really trying to change things. So I think we have to put our priorities in order. And what I see is, the universe of information is expanding tremendously. And I think in my PJ's life, it's just going to tenfold, if not 1,000-fold, in what is actually reality. What we think is real today is going to be dramatically different in the next 20 years or 40 years. And I hope I'm still around to see what's going on. I think, there's a chance that I will be. But I definitely think younger people are going to see a new world. And I think it could be a very good world for everybody if we set that as a priority. What I'm seeing is that we have what is called a zero-sum approach to life. Some win and others lose. And we see that in business, we see that in capitalism. We're seeing that in what we call democracy. That's, the people that have the most money give the most contributions, get the most influence. That's a win-win situation for them, but everybody else loses, okay? Do you see the win-lose kind of functioning there? I'm a person that would like to see us move to what is called a non-zero-sum approach to viewing the world, where it's not somebody wins and other people lose all the time. It's we all win or we all lose together. Do you see the difference? And I think it's very possible that we can live in a world where we all get along, we all take care of each other, we all get to vote, we all have personal rights, we all have jobs, we all have incomes, we all have houses, we all have enough to eat, we can cure diseases, everybody can be educated. All of those things are possible if we just made it a priority. Instead, what we're allowing are fewer and fewer people to become rich, very rich, and the inequality of that is going to catch up to us. We have to resolve that. And I'm not so sure that you're going to have to take the money away from the rich people and give it to the poor. I would rather see us find ways to build up the bottom economics so that everybody has a stable middle range, and let some people be rich, and they may deserve it. But what I'm afraid of is that we're going to get into a scenario where the rich people may not want a lot of poor people around. We've seen those scenarios already, and a new war or a new pandemic, and it'd be a dramatically negative future. And I think it would be caused by mankind. Now, we already have that argument in the global warming and the climate change, and I think that's a very complicated issue. I'm not sure that all of the increase in temperature, although I think the temperature is increasing, it's not all man-made. I think there's some natural kind of things going on in the oceans and volcanoes, and maybe some things with the sun and our orbit, all those kind of things. I think the Earth has gone through these kinds of changes before, but we have to take care of our planet. We should be the stewards. That should be one of the tests. Why go to Mars or Pluto or wherever, or the moon, if we can't take care of our own planet? Okay? And in some of my other videos, I get into some of this discussion. I think there's levels of civilization. I think we have 5 levels here on Earth that come from the most primitive food gatherers, and then the nomads that take their herds around, and then the 3rd level would be people that have agriculture and live in one place. Level 4 would be a situation where it would be similar to ancient civilizations that had metal, coppers, and iron, and cities, all of those. And we're in level 5, in my opinion, where we have mass manufacturing, mass marketing, mass communications, mass media. We have a mass mess, in my opinion, in some cases. But that's the direction we're going. And I think we're probably at the top of level 5 civilization here. And for us to move to a level 6 civilization, we have to look at the world different. It can't be zero sum. It can't be that a few win and everybody else loses. You follow me? It has to be that we change our philosophy, our perspective, to non-zero sum, where we all win, we all can, benefit from the environment, and we all get along. There's no reason we can't live in peace if that was our priority. We just have too many people that make too much money from starting wars or terrorism. That's the bottom line. There's money involved, and we could change that. We're going to have to change it in our politics. We're going to have to change it in our economic system. I've advocated that those people that make money from causing wars should be invited to create technologies for peace. And I've recommended that we have mass transportation systems that are underground and in tubes and very high tech. And why not have the industries that make money in bullets and tanks and planes get involved in that kind of peaceful kind of endeavors? So we could have that kind of strategy in this present lifetime if we just said that's what we wanted. Okay, and I see that we could have 30,000 new communities built that would accommodate 5 billion people. in the next 20, 30 years. So I think it's very possible that we could move to that level and move into a level 6 civilization if we really wanted to. And we would take care of everybody, we'd get along, we wouldn't give a rat's ass about the color of their skin, as long as people were decent and we could trust each other and work together. That makes a whole lot more sense to me than continuing the kind of philosophies and strategies we have today. So I think as the universe gets bigger, I think as we get more knowledge, that knowledge base expands, I think we have to move in some new directions. I think politically we need to move so that everybody is equal. We have to move in economic ways so that everybody has equal opportunity. Doesn't mean everybody has to have the same incomes, but we have to have more opportunities for people at the bottom to come up. And so in a broad sense, I'm seeing that those new directions are very important to the future and to your future, because you're going to be there, okay? Now, if you're the individual and you're in the middle of this, you have to figure out where you fit, okay? So there's 3 exercises that I would like you to, be involved in. And the first one is, I would like you to just write 1 or 2 pages of description of what you would like your life to be like in 5 years and 10 years, okay? And this can be kind of wishful thinking, but also some realism to it, so that you can see yourself 5 years from now, where you're living, what kind of a place it is it an apartment, is it a house, where is it located, what kind of vehicle do you have, are you carrying a briefcase to work, describe yourself 5 years from now, and then 10 years from now, and that include, family, friends, environment, all of those kind of variables. It's true, if you can imagine something, you have a chance of realizing it. If you can't imagine it, you're not going to realize it, okay? So even though you might be sitting someplace and it doesn't look possible for you to even get a job, or nobody wants to hire you, and you can't see where 5 years or 10 years might even be for you, I'm urging you to develop a scenario, a potential scenario for what you would like yourself to be like in 5 years and 10 years, okay? I want you to be able to imagine it, all right? Then the second thing I'd like you to do is develop a wish list. And I've talked about this in the other videos. Sometimes they're called bucket lists. I'm not sure anybody plans on dying and writes up a list, but I'm sure it happens. This isn't that kind of list. I'm just talking about a list, one-page list of all the things you want to do. And it could be fun things, you want to go to Disneyland, or you want to go to Orlando, or you want to go to Paris, or you want to go to, Denver, it might be people you want to meet. It might be kind of things you want to experience. Students are always saying they want to jump out of airplanes. I'm going to skip that one. So just develop a list, because this also expands your imagination of the things that you would like to do. And I've had students give me 10 pages of this, thousands of things that they want to do, right down to who they want to have lunch with in the next 10 years or 20 years. So again, I'd like you to expand, what you're looking at today. You might think, well, it's ridiculous to do this, but it's not. It's a very good exercise to give you some ideas of what things might be important for you in the future. And if you write them down, keep them someplace and go back and check them every once in a while. I've done that repeatedly in my life, and sometimes I can't find them, where I've stored them, but I think it's important that you write these things down, okay? The third thing I'd like you to do is a new adventure, I would guess, because I haven't asked my students to do this, but I see it's more and more important. And what I'm calling it is a stick to the wall list, okay? As you're moving through life, very, very fast, it's very possible for you just to stay in the same routine day after day after day. And you get into a routine with your spouse, your mate, or your kids, so that as soon as the first words are out, they know what you're going to say. And you respond, and it's just like robots talking to each other. And that's kind of sad, but I've seen it happen. And to get out of that, and you've developed these things that you want to do in life, and you've developed some priorities, which are really goals, I think you have to pick out 2 or 3 things that I say are going to stick to the wall. Okay, you're traveling 1,000 miles an hour, not like we are here on Earth, but technically we are. But let's just say we're traveling through life so fast that we're not sticking to the wall on things. In other words, I think you need to pick out 2 or 3 things that are important to you, very important to you. And they could be like, I want to be a good parent, and make that a priority. And even though you may not have a job or the best job, or you may not be able to go to Disney World this year, or, all these other things may not happen, but if you are doing everything you can to be a good parent, to be a good person, to be a good neighbor, to be a good worker, you see what I'm suggesting? Pick out some things that you can do today, every day, and they become very, very important to you. Those are the things that stick to the wall. So much of everything is just thrown up on the wall. It's like throwing a bowl of spaghetti on the wall, and most of it falls down. And I'm suggesting you got to have some of that spaghetti stick to the wall. You got to have some things in your life that are consistent, that are important, that have high priority, and that you're proud of. Okay, what I've seen in the last, history of a few hundred years is that we've gone from wanting, somebody up there rewarding us, to a me society, and we're rewarding ourselves. So that's me, and I see that in young kids. My 9-year-old isn't any different. He has about everything he wants. So I've spoiled him. I've been a part of that. But it's very easy to get so self-centered today that it's all about me. And I'm suggesting that that kind of spaghetti doesn't stick. Okay? Because you're dealing in a world that interacts with you, and their perception of you is going to be different. So the things that stick for you have to stick for other people. It's a two-way street. And that leads to this idea of non-zero sum. Okay? And I call it weism. We all get into this together, we all survive together, we all work together, we all live together, on one planet. And if we can't do it as one planet and everybody connected, then I think we're in trouble. Okay? But as an individual, you'll be in trouble, because if the only measures of success that you're worried about are, what kind of fancy car you drive, or what kind of fancy house, or what kind of fancy shoes you wear, you're pretty shallow. I'd just be honest with you. And that spaghetti's going to fall to the floor. Because someday you're going to lose it all, or could lose it all, and there'll be no value there to you, okay? The value that you have in life, I think, has to do with those things outside of yourself, okay? Those relationships that you have, those kind of meaningful dialogues that you have with people, having friends that you can be absent for years and then you sit down for tea and you can pick it up, Those kind of things, I think, give value to your life far more than the me kinds of things. So I would like you to pick out 2 or 3 items, values, that you would like to emphasize in your life. No matter what the economy is doing, no matter what your job is, no matter what your life situation is, but just 3 values that relate to the world outside you. so that you can feel good about yourself because you have done everything you can to have those 2 or 3 things stay with you for your entire life. It could be that you have 1 or 2 very good friends. It could be that you have a very good relationship with your kids. And I think we're missing that, to be real honest. I see a lot of students in my class that have some real anxiety about whether they're important to their parents. You know, I encourage my students, when they are parents, to give a damn about their kids. And the kids can feel that. If the kids get the feeling that their parents don't give a damn about them, then they're not going to give a damn about the world. Okay? And so the ones that get in trouble, the ones that end up in our prisons, often are from these kinds of families. So you got to change that in your life. And if you have kids, spend some time with them. Give a damn about what their concerns are, so that they can feel comfortable in their world. Okay, and it could be with your spouse. It could be with close friends at work. It could be that you're doing the best you can at work. Okay, whatever that work is. It may not be the exact end-all-end jobs, but do the best you can where you're at, so you have that sense of pride. I think we have a problem with just the idea of being proud anymore. It doesn't have to be false pride. It just means that you have some things that you hold important in your life. Okay? 2 or 3 items, and you can do that in a page or 2 if you're working on the CEU part. If you're on the college credit level, I would like you to really get into this and not only just highlight what those values would be, but describe how you're going to develop them. Okay? Give yourself a plan and emphasize what it's going to take to reach that level where you're satisfied, you're comfortable, you're proud of those things that you're doing for other people, not just yourself. Okay? So those are the 3 main things. A 5-10 year description of where you want to be, a wish list or bucket list of things that you want to do, or expand the imagination, and this third one, stick to the wall list, where you describe 2 or 3 things that are very important to you. Okay? Then the last thing I would like you to do, and on the CU level, just a page or 2 to draw all that together, summarize it, draw a conclusion, synthesize it, so that having gone through this experience, I'm hoping you move from this point to this point. Maybe some new knowledge was gained and you need to go out and get some new knowledge. Go get some references, go get some new information, depending on what you want out of this. This is what you can put into it. It's not me. I've about ready to wrap up this video, so now it's your learning. It's your responsibility to put this together. So in this concluding part, just kind of talk through where you'd like to bring all of these things together. Take the 3 exercises and draw some conclusion. Okay? If you're on the college level, I'd like it to be more in depth. Okay? And the synthesis is what I call a level 4 learning, and it's very important to be able to synthesize it and feel good about your conclusions. Okay? So I hope this has been of some benefit to you. I hope that you can move from more negative, being anxious, being down, being depressed, to more positive things, even in little steps. Okay? And I've talked in the past about taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep, eating the right foods, and drinking good water, and staying out of stress. Those things are important. But also, I think the things we talked about today should give you some new perspectives and hopefully new hope. Okay? Don't give up. Don't jump off a bridge. Talk to people. Go get help from people. Check out other people's points of view on these things. I think there are people out there that would like to help you. And if you have a chance, write to me your questions, and I'll interact with you as well. Okay? So I hope to see your work, and just take care of yourself and the world around you. Okay? Thank you.